late night planning sesh. Andy is 21 now. Wine is very good. Hello.
Hi.
And welcome to Queers Can't Words podcast. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
This week,
Yes.
we will be discussing
Or this time.
Mawwiage.
This is what brings us togedda, tooday.
And WUV.
TWU. Okay, so yes.
We are discussing
Additional content
marriage.
to this episode besides our interviews.
Yeah. We
Yes.
wanted to discuss, well, I guess the reason why we chose marriage as an LGBTQ issue is because marriage was illegal for so long. And queer marriage. Marriage was illegal, period. It was just unacceptable. Anyways, and so same-sex marriage wasn't legal until 2015. On the upside, I guess, marriage inequality isn't something that has kind of plagued our generation. So,
True.
It's interesting to think how, like, Natalie and I, or our friends who are queer, think about marriage, whereas, like, how would the older queers think about marriage since it was illegal?
Yeah, and our interviewee, Gina, touched on this and being like, oh, we just want, like, to have the same rights as everyone else. Like, we may not exercise those rights in the sense of, like, oh, we might not all get married, but, like, we should be able to legally and have it recognized in all the states of our country. Yeah.
Anyways, there are a lot of different reasons why people get married, and it is, it's a complicated thing. Or it's not, I guess, I don't know.
I feel like our culture has made it a lot more complicated than it needs to be, and I feel like people are starting to realize that it doesn't have to be complicated, or, like, that it can look differently based on yourself and your spouse and your needs and the fact that, like, and you're different people and you're not the same as everybody else who's ever gotten married, and so that probably changes things.
Truth. And that you can, like, get divorced, which feel like was less common because there's probably more pressure to, like, stay with your spouse. And, like, now, since divorce is more normalized, it's like, I feel like that's actually a really positive thing, because, like, if things aren't working out, then you at least don't feel trapped in a relationship you have to make work or compromise your own well-being for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like, what if you get eloped? Honestly, good for you. Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's...
I know a lot of queer couples who have eloped.
Well, because it's, like, it doesn't have the pressure of, like, how expensive weddings are, and that's another thing. Who decided to make weddings so ridiculously, like, pricey?
Partiers. I don't know. I would have maybe not a big wedding. I just want to have a big party. That's that.
I mean, and that's basically so what it There's is. So it's like, oh, you see your, like, friend or family member get married, and then it's like, yay, let's celebrate that.
Right, but it's more to please your audience to the marriage than the actual people getting married, which is kind of like, maybe not.
I just keep thinking of more gender roles where it's like, oh, the bride's father gives her away, which that in and of itself has a lot in it. And then there's like, like, after the married couple has their first dance. I'm basing this off of a really, like, stereotypical or traditional wedding that I went to in Alabama, because I think that was the most recent wedding that I've been to. And so then they had their first dance, and then, like, there was the mother-son dance and the father-daughter dance, and I'm like, like, what if you want to dance with somebody else?
Not allowed.
Well, but that's lame.
Grandma dance.
Or, like, like your sibling or your best friend or your, whoever that you're most excited to, like, celebrate this with. Or, like, but then also, like...
That's so true.
I don't know.
I feel like it kind of ties back in, like, the wedding becomes just about the people who are there rather than like
Right.
just, you know, your wedding, which can be like a good thing sometimes if that's what you want also.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There are lots of like kind of strict rules
Yeah.
about it, and then it becomes less about the actual like union of two people and more about the ceremony and
And, like, how
you
to
know,
impress people. Like, Brooke
that
said
stuff.
that. Like,
right.
how she was like, am I doing this for me or just to, like, impress someone with my flower arrangements? Which, like, yeah, like, that's a very valid
Yeah.
thing to think about. And I also, like...
And it is stressful. Like, everyone I
Yeah.
know who has been amidst planning a wedding is, like, a total mess
Yeah.
for, like, months to come. And they have, like, a fitness plan to get in shape for the wedding, which I kind of think is funny because you're about to, like, settle down with someone. Like, who cares how you look?
Yeah,
and,
I mean, like,
you'd be, like,
the person
getting in
you're
shape
married
for
is
the
hopefully,
wedding.
like, accepting, like, you in all phases of your...
Yeah, but I'm
body
like, I guess
fluctuating.
It's, you know, motivating, I guess. But I know, yeah. And then, like, you know, there's a lot of things to decide on and to choose and to plan. Oof.
And I don't know if other queer people have this, like, experience, but, like, the older I get, the more I find myself, like, thinking about marriage, and then I go, like, I have this, like, I'm standing on this very fine line in between, like, traditional and conventional, and I basically just don't know where I am. Like,
That's all.
because sometimes I'm like, oh, those, like, nice, like, traditional thing, you know, like, the ceremony or whatever, but then I'm, like, thinking about other things, like, you know, the specific dance stuff and all the, like, stuff that you're expected to spend money on, like catering or decorations or music, and I'm like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
You just choose the things that, like, you want to do. And I feel like the place and, like, the venue's important. Like, I don't know, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
And some things seem really cute until you, like, dive into it, and then it's like, oh,
God.
that's a lot of work.
Well, yeah,
But
okay.
Who knows?
And then, because, yeah, there's so much,
And, like,
like
include
that
the
goes
things
into it.
And then the toast is, like, I don't know if
well, because,
you
yeah, there's the
experience this,
reception,
like,
and then
the
there's
dad
also...
has a toast, and the mom has a toast, and, like, everybody's drinking bubbly wine,
Champagne.
Champagne. Prosecco.
Well, the last wedding I went to, it was kind of
cheese.
weird because, like... Well, so we had, like, a dress rehearsal. That's another thing. Dress rehearsal dinners that aren't even, like, an actual rehearsal.
Yeah, no, I remember going to those and just, like, meeting people, and, like, it's really awkward because, well, weddings, I'm like, yeah, it brings people together. But if you're antisocial like me, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a room full of new people
True.
you have to, I don't know,
And then sometimes
socialize
you're not
with.
even,
Sometimes
like,
it's
directly,
fun, but
like...
yeah, I'm like, who is this?
Or at least, like... Well, the last wedding I went to was for, like, an uncle who I am, like, not close with. And, like, prior to that, like, the most interactions I had with this uncle was when I was, like, a young child. And so, like, I felt like I was still, like, almost seen in that role for him, because he, like, didn't know how to talk to me. So there was that. And then, like, oh, I remember, well, because, so I went with my mom, and I was, like, you know, went to the bridal luncheon while the guys, like, got their suits or their tuxes or whatever. And, like, this was the Alabama wedding. It was fun.
Nice.
Not, like, bagging on it or anything, but, like, man, those traditional conservative values and, like,
Yeah.
you can just see how much, like, thought went into it also, which is impressive, because you think about so many things, like, completely different, like, get-togethers for the bride's, like, family or friends, and then the groom's, and then, like, the dress rehearsal dinner, which was, it seemed like, because at that point I had, like, been at Fala, so I was like, dress rehearsal means, like, this. And it was not like that. And I was like,
you're backstage, and then it's lights.
Well, it's like you're practicing how it's gonna go when you actually do it, and it was not like that. Because, and then we had the ceremony, and then the reception, and, like...
There's a lot.
It's a lot. And I'm like, kudos to people who can plan all of that.
Honestly, hell yeah.
And then you also have to plan your honeymoon. Honeymoon.
The most important part. See, but then you can just be like, everyone can clean up after and just, I'm gonna go.
And you just
on
like
my honeymoon.
yeet on
Goodbye.
out.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice, I guess.
And then also, like, another thing I've been thinking about is the expectation of, like, gifts. And, like...
Oh, that's true.
Which, like, sure, I guess it's, like...
Like, congrats. Like, if it's someone special to you or close, that makes sense. Like...
But then why, like, the whole, like, gift registry thing. And it's like, get us this, like, crock pot. And it's like...
No, yeah, that is...
because you want it? Like...
It's important for the marriage that we have a crock pot.
Well, because, it's, I mean, it's often, like...
And I was like, you know what? That is important.
That's true. But then that's just, like, promoting, like, domesticity.
Ew.
Too, which is, like, it has its pros and cons.
Worry.
I think every adult should have a vacuum. So, like...
True.
Maybe that doesn't apply, but, like... Ooh.
Right?
Those can be spooky.
Yeah, they are.
I remember dog sitting and, like, waking up in the middle of the night because the fucking Roomba was talking to me.
Just, like,
and it was kind of alarming.
That would be very alarming,
yeah.
actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot there.
Yeah. One of our high school guidance counselors sent us an article about the use of the term partner and whether or not it should quote unquote quote belong to the LGBTQ community. There we go. Or like if straight couples should/can use it as well. Wait, did you actually read the article?
No.
Okay. Andy didn't do his homework.
No. Never.
So, I mean, like, basically, I mean, there was...
Sorry.
Let me try and summarize it
Sometimes.
in a way that is concise, because it's been, like, a week or two since I read it. But, like, basically it was saying, like, you know, some, like, people whose feedback was received for this article, they were like, oh, I think it's a good thing because it promotes the idea of marriage as a friendship and a partnership as opposed to, like, one party, like, perhaps the male party, owns the other party, perhaps the female party,
owns him or her. Ooh.
Yeah.
Or them.
And I lost my train of thought a bit. But then also it was kind of like saying, like, this is something... I might actually be paraphrasing this incorrectly, but I feel like somebody mentioned, like, this is something that the queer community fought to, like, own, and so it's kind of lame of the straight community to just start using it. And, like, I can see how it can be kind of confusing because, like, usually when you hear someone refer to their spouse as their partner, you, like... I feel like it's mostly assumed that it's a queer couple then. And so, like, I think that's sometimes a good assumption, like, in the case that it's, like, accurate? A straight straight passing couple, but one of them is, like, actually bisexual, in which case then, yes, it is a queer relationship, even though it's, like, looks like a straight relationship.
Straight relation. Sorry.
So, yeah. And I particularly like using the term partner to just, like, promote the idea of marriage being a partnership when, like, I at least feel like traditionally there's kind of, like, a toxicity embedded into it wherein it's imbalanced.
Right, like, hubby has more power over, like, you know, the wife of the relation. But, like, the term partner kind of evens the playing field. Where it's like, you know, your
and it can also help with,
your, like, equal power. Which
and it
is,
can
like,
help with
nice.
Gender roles, too.
True.
Because, like, traditionally it's like,
gender roles.
Yeah. Only cinnamon rolls, no gender roles.
Oh, hell yeah. Unless you're celiac.
Oh, that's fair.
Sorry. But you're right. Only cinnamon rolls.
Sorry, I'm just hungry. Anyway,
no
yeah.
Gender roles.
Yeah, because, like, in a partnership, it's like, oh, we both take care of, you know, household duties and or providing for the family / household, as opposed to designating those things based on traditional gender roles.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, I just, like, with traditional cis straight couples getting married, I just, like, don't always understand it, because it's like, if one person, like, usually the man is like, oh, this is chaining me down and taking away my freedom, like, why would you want to get married then if you thought that way? So that's something that has always kind of confused me. Like, why?
Also, if you look at that, it's usually, like, the opposite situation, I feel like, where the wife is more chained to domesticity.
Yeah.
And then the man is somehow chained to domesticity, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Yes.
I don't know why I always say, like, goodbye, like I'm on a phone call with everyone.
I know. Well, it feels weird because, like,
see you later.
Yeah, pre-editing, it's like, at the finished product, we're just gonna go right into our next thing. Hi, this is our first interview with my friend Gina. Hi, Gina.
Hi, guys.
Hey. So yeah.
Yeah, so this episode is about marriage.
Yeah.
Hey, marriage.
Cool. You wanna go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Gina Dazzo. I live in Clarkdale, Arizona.
Yeah. So we can just get right into it.
Hop right in.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So our first question that we have is, like, sort of general. It's, what does marriage mean to you, or what does marriage represent to you?
Well, being a lesbian or a part of the gay community, it really means having rights, the same rights that anyone would have, so that you can, you know, like, me and my partner, we got married 5 years ago because, you know, if something happened to one of us, we wanted to make sure that basically we're covered. You know, we can visit each other in a hospital, or we have power of attorney, or, you know, things like that, so that as we, you know, and we're getting older, and as we age, you know, that we're covered. We already had, like, a commitment. We've been together over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So really, yeah, so really, really, you know, like, marriage to us was not like what it is to some people. Like, we weren't even going to get married, but because honestly, it's almost like a patriarchal kind of thing, marriage. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, you know, do we even really want to get married? But just to have these rights, we thought it would be a good idea.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does make sense.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into our
next question.
You go for it.
Cool.
Well, so how have your ideas of marriage changed pre- and post-marriage equality for the LGBTQ plus community?
So prior to, you know, marriage equality and the rights for, you know, our community to be able to marry, like I said, like, it was, like, to me, it was, like, not a big deal. And it took us 20 years to get, like, we were together 15 years before we even got married. But, and, you know, a lot of people would get married, you know, and have ceremonies and such, commitment ceremonies. They were not legal, of course, but it for them, it was like an important passage or whatever, so that they could feel, you know, validated in their relationship. Me personally, I didn't feel, and my partner didn't feel the need to have that, because we were already committed. We're committed to one another.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
But once it did become legal, you know, we talked about it, and we're like, you know, like, a lot of, you know, the community that had fought very hard to have this come to fruition, and like really, it was our right to do it, like legally, to have that backup, like I said, like, and be able to file taxes together and get the benefits any heterosexual couple would have.
Right. True.
Yeah.
And when you did get married, did you have a ceremony, or like did you keep it more on like, I don't know, low key?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we got married. We got married in San Francisco.
Nice.
Yeah, and we got married in the city hall there, and right in front of a Harvey Milk statue. So it was really kind of cool. It was very small. It was Melody and I and like two witnesses.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So it was a small ceremony for us, but it was in a place of significance.
Do you feel like your marriage is more traditional or unconventional, and why? And like kind of as a two-parter, how is this connected or disconnected from being in a same-sex marriage?
I don't think it's very conventional at all.
Yay.
Yeah, it's not, like, we don't ever, and it's like we don't call each other wife. We don't like that term. So really, I mean, like, for us, it's kind of like a paper.
Yeah. Nice.
We have that paper, but really, like, how we've lived our lives or how, like, our relationship didn't change because of that paper. It's the same strong relationship that it's always been. So, I don't think it's very conventional at all, really.
Nice. And then, I guess going off of that, when we're like referring to your spouse, like what words do you use? Do you like say like this is my partner or spouse?
Mm-hmm. Or... I say partner. Mm-hmm. Nice. We call each other partner. Mm-hmm.
Nice. I dig it.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so in that vein, like, well, because Andy and I, or at least I, have read an article about like the term partner and like if it quote unquote should belong to like the LGBTQ community, and so like what does partner mean to you, and like do you think it should be like solely a LGBT?
Yeah, like instead of wife or husband or partner. I think partner is great because it's like a partnership, and basically like that's how we run our relationship. We talk about things, we collaborate. We make decisions together, but still have our autonomy. Like we still do our own thing. We still have separate friends and friends together, and not like a regular traditional marriage where people get sometimes married and then they're only friends.
Yeah.
It's like they have each other and that's it. Yeah. Like they kind of lose their friends as they kind of go along the way, and that's one thing that's very important to us because like our friends are like family to us because as a gay or lesbian or transgender person, these are your people.
Yeah.
They've always been there to support you and no questions asked, and they're there for you 100%. And, that's like family to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes more even accepting than your family is, depending on your family.
Yeah.
Some people don't have, like I know, Natalie, you have such support in your family, and I don't know you, Andy, but it's like having that support in your family. It that means a lot. Not everyone in our community has that.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, friends are everything.
Yeah.
And then kind of going off of like unconventionality, some in the LGBTQIA+ argue to abolish marriage, and I know earlier you mentioned it being patriarchal. I always say that wrong.
No, you don't.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Patriarchal.
So what are your thoughts on this abolishing marriage take?
Well, like I said, like in the beginning, like we were, and I still have friends today that don't want to get married. They don't, because it is so patriarchal and whatever, they're just like, no.
Yeah.
But when we got married with two friends of ours that are older than us, and they had been together for 48 years.
Wow.
And one of them recently passed away, but when we talked to our one friend, because they're like total like dykes, like feminists, like marriage is no way, and they decided to do it because one of them was sick, and they wanted to have these rights, So, I think it should be a decision. I don't think it should be abolished. I think you should have the choice, just like the choice is for anything in your life.
Yeah.
You should have the choice. If you want to do it, great. If you don't want to, don't. But it should be available to people who want to.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have any other, thoughts on marriage that you would like to share in general?
Well, I think, marriage is a funny thing. It kind of is. And like, even when I was getting married, it was like, I looked at my partner and I go, are we doing the right thing? It had nothing to do with the amount of time or our love or that we've been together or our love for one another. It had nothing to do with any of that. But, just like some people are like, well, why do you want to have what heterosexual people have?
Right.
But really, it's just a matter of I want to have the same rights as anyone else. And so I think, going with that, I think it was the right decision for us, for sure. And some people may think it's not a great decision for them, but.
Awesome.
I have a possibly silly question, but I thought of it. Like, how often would you say that, like, strangers or just people that you're not, like, super close with will ask, like, who's the man in the relationship? Or, like, like those nice, fun questions that...
Yeah, those stupid questions. What's really interesting is we have not really encountered that. I'm going to be honest. Like, no one's really asked us that. And it's funny because we live in a real kind of conservative area. We live in Clarkdale, which is not like, like your most liberal part of Arizona.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people around us that are conservative. I mean, clearly they're conservative. They have, their Trump signs in their front yard. We are never ashamed to introduce each other as partners, and we have to everyone around here. Anyone that we've met, any neighbor, whatever, and nobody has criticized us or been mean or even acted shocked. So it's kind of interesting in this weird little community, and so maybe we're making some progress in the world here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, heck yeah. Wouldn't it? It would be nice. So you can just say, well, this is my partner. We've been together, a long time. We live here. We're your neighbor. But, like, everyone knows around here that we're together. So, and no one's been weird about it. And I'm never, with anybody or anywhere, any job or anything, I'm never afraid to just be like, I'm a lesbian. This is my partner. I don't care. You don't like me? Great.
Nice.
I don't care. I'm not going to, hide my life to make you happy.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? Seriously.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. Interesting times, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Very much so. I think we have answered all of the questions that we had.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We did too.
We did too. This was lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being our interviewee. 3, 2, 1. Cool. Hi, welcome to our podcast.
Hello. Would you like to give us, or our listeners, I suppose, a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Brooke. I grew up with Andy.
Yeah.
I've been married for almost a year. Yay!
Woo, congrats. Oh,
Yay.
yeah, it has been almost a year.
Wow.
Damn, time flies, let me tell you.
Oh. Also this year, just in general, like,
Year has truly flown by.
Truth.
all right.
Alrighty.
Would you like to just get into it?
Let's jump right in.
Yeah, if you want to start, shall I?
Go for it.
Okay, so our first question for you, what does marriage mean to you?
What does marriage mean to me?
Kind of a really general question.
Yeah.
Really broad.
I feel like I made a commitment to be with someone forever. Like I maybe that's very cliche and very boring, but I feel like it's a little different than dating. You're like, hey, I'm committed.
True.
I feel.
You're committed to your best friend.
Aww. That's nice. I love to hear it.
Can we get married?
Yes.
I'll just anyway.
Just marry all of your best friends.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's way to go.
I'm gonna start a cult.
Right now. Oh.
Nice.
Marriage is a cult to me.
Maybe so.
Okay.
Really?
Sorry. I crack a little there. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
That is good.
Cool.
That's a good. Yes.
And then this kind of goes into our like more LGBTQ questions. So our question for you is, as a bisexual or someone who's been with both men and women, do you feel you are less involved in the LGBTQ community because you've married a man, or have people been assuming that you're like straight because you're with a man?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I still feel like a queer.
Yeah.
That didn't change overnight. I definitely still feel like, sure, I'm queer, but I don't know. I guess I haven't really thought about it. Like, whether Andreas was a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter to me. He just happens to be a really nice, sexy man. So I don't feel like I'm any less a part of the LGBTQ. But I guess some people have assumed that just because I like married a dude that I'm not a queer, but like it doesn't really matter. It only matters to me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. Well, kind of going off of that, do you feel like your marriage is more traditional or unconventional, and why?
Ooh, I feel like it was pretty unconventional just because, well, mainly we didn't tell a lot of people, and we also just kind of did it quickly and didn't, like we just eloped on the beach, which was really nice. But it was special to us. I had a great time. But when I told my family, they're definitely just like, you did what? So it's definitely not very traditional, but I mean, we've talked about it. Having a traditional marriage is just kind of a lot of money and doesn't mean too much to me. I'd rather go on like a really expensive honeymoon, just for, instead of like impressing my grandma with what kind of flowers I picked out and stuff like that. Like if it's cool, if that's what some people like to do, that's totally fine. But I definitely think we got married unconventionally.
Nice. I love it.
Dazzo.
Okay, and then this is just another kind of question.
We're not the most organized.
We are, yeah, sorry. Okay, like when you refer to Andres, do you, or like, you know, your spouse, what word do you use? Do you call him like husband or partner or spouse? And like, yeah.
Oh, in what setting?
I guess just like generally.
Like say you're at, like you're introducing, or you're like, oh yeah, my spouse, insert whatever word you use here, and a group of friends. Or like, I don't know, would it be different though if you were like at work and you were like,
yeah, or like
I do notice I get treated differently because I am so young and I'm married. So in different settings I'll use different words.
Nice.
it's not that I'm embarrassed to be married. Like, I am proud to be married, but I feel like people take me a little more seriously depending on the words I use. Like, when I'm with my friends, I say, oh, it's my husband, oh, it's my hubby. But when I'm at work in a more professional setting, like if I'm trying to get a job or an internship, it's kind of weird because I have like introduced him as my husband, and people have, I feel like they talk down to me. Like, they're like, she kind of doesn't know what she's doing. So I'll say, oh, this is my partner. Or sometimes I'll even use spouse because I feel like it sounds a little more professional than this is my husband.
Interesting.
Right.
And even like on the base, I don't mean anything because they only care about soldiers, and like anyone who's connected to them are just like, you know, they're dependents. They don't matter. They don't really have names. They're just their husband's name. But like, I'm not my husband's name, which is stupid. But when I go there, I'll definitely say, I'll just address myself as, yeah, Private Adkins.
Nice.
I'm making an appointment for Private Adkins. And I'm like, yeah. Which is definitely a bummer, but whatever.
Nice. Do you think that like in a work setting, because you're married, do you think that like people would treat you, okay, well, this is kind of a weird question, but do you think that like they talk down to you because you're a wife, rather if you were a husband? Okay, obviously you're not a husband, but you know, if you were
Like, do
a
you think
husband,
it would have a different
it would have a different connotation
if you were in a same-sex?
Oh, that was not where I was going,
Okay.
but I got you though. That's a great question. Or is it because you're like a woman that's married that they feel like maybe you're dependent on a man, so you're like settled financially, maybe you don't, I don't know, need a job?
Well, I think because I am, like, that they know that he's in the military, they just assume that he's taking care of me, and that I'm kind of just like, I mean, there is a stereotype that soldiers marry young and they get a wife who just takes care of the house and like has a million children. Yeah, so I feel like when people are like, oh, she's married to like someone in the military and she's so young, they just assume that like I'm not like pursuing further education or like doing stuff beyond the household. Like, they just assume that I'm at home taking care of stuff, maybe getting a side job. I think that definitely happens, and I will just say like, oh, my partner's at, like, he's in the army, but I won't like say husband. I have even coworkers. I've had coworkers treat me differently, so I'm just careful with my words. And then I think, like what Natalie was saying about whether I was with a man or a woman, I don't think it would matter. I think it just, if people know that you're married, they just assume that you're like, well, married at this age, I think they just assume that like someone's taking care of you and that you're not trying to pursue further goals. You're doing the more like traditional stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Got you.
I can see that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So since being married, how have your ideas of marriage changed, if at all? Like, I guess, like, compared to how you thought of it, like, growing up, if ever you did. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me think about that. So, I mean, if I'm comparing my marriage to my parents' marriage, I definitely feel like they have a very traditional marriage. Yeah. And I don't know if you could say our marriage is progressive. That's kind of weird. More, I guess it definitely feels different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just more relaxed. I think it's just because I didn't have the pressure of like planning a wedding and like doing all that crazy stuff. Maybe that's why. But you don't know. I think marriage is still the same. Like, I always thought it was like a commitment to someone that you wanted to be with forever.
Yeah. And then I guess like going off of that, like, you know, growing up with like you know, parents who are married and like observing that, did you ever feel like a societal or like personal pressure to get married or to not?
Oh no. I thought I was gonna be like, I thought I would just have partners throughout my life, but I was like, I'm never getting married. That's not my thing.
Nice.
I think I even told Andres that. I was like, I believe in like just not getting married and going through the motions. And then of course we got married like, I don't know, maybe 6 months later. I can't remember the question. What was it?
It was just, yeah, I think you answered it like,
yeah, you pretty much answered it.
yeah, did you ever feel like pressured societally or personally to get married?
Yeah.
No, he kind of, that's a fun story for a different time, but it's very like random, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'm down, and it's worked out.
Nice.
I guess kind of off of that, like, do you feel like your parents kind of like expected you to get married eventually, regardless of what you may have said? Although maybe they didn't expect you to get married quite as young.
That was a laugh from the bathroom. I think he's laughing at me.
Nice.
Sorry, what was the question?
Like, did your parents kind of expect you to eventually like get married, perhaps a bit more like traditionally?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. They were horrified, but now my mom thinks it's a cute idea. She's like, "Oh, that was so cute. You got married on the beach."
Legit.
So cute. She's like, and she really likes him. She loves Andres. So I mean, I think they had a different image. But my mom, when she found out I wasn't getting married, she wasn't happy. But like, I feel like it quickly like settled with her, and she was just like, "Oh yay, Brooke's getting married. That's so cute."
Nice. That's good that they were
so funny.
They were happy about it, I guess. Yeah.
Shout out to Christy.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool.
Well,
alrighty.
you should kind of answer it.
Yeah, that's true. You kind of already answered this question, but just to like
if you want
go off, I guess.
On
how does being a wife affect how you view yourself and how others view you?
We could kind of talk about, but if there's other like experience.
Well, I mean, I could talk about how I view myself. I don't feel like it's made. I don't feel like a different person. Like I'm now prohibited from doing things. Which I think some people assume that because they're like, oh, you're married to someone, like you can't do this and that, and you can't like. I mean, he's in the military. The expectation is that like I'll follow him everywhere, but like, I mean, if I want to, I'll follow him. Depends. I mean, I talked about like while he's at his next duty station, like I might go travel and do my own thing for a little bit and like meet back up with him when he has a more permanent station for a long time. So I don't feel like I'm very limited, and I feel like my plans haven't changed that much. I'm still going to school. I'm still studying what I want to study. Still doing the activities I want. I still travel. If not, I travel more. So
good stuff.
I feel like I'm being held back. But I think that everyone thought that, oh my God, she's gonna like do the whole stereotypical thing and just like live in a sad house for the rest of time. Okay, you know what? If now I'm shaming people who want that life. There's nothing wrong with that life. That life just is not for me. But
you do you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't feel different, but I think other people think that like things have just changed drastically, or at least about me and my plans.
Yeah.
That makes sense because of what we like put on the like title of wife.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of like weight to it that might not even necessarily be true, like to either of those titles.
What do you mean? Like what kind of weight?
Like, I guess expectations in a way, or like stereotypes or judgments or just like assumptions.
Oh yeah. Dude, when I worked at Starbucks, to be honest, when I came here, I was like, wow, I really need to make money. I need a job. This does not matter. I need to get a job for a little bit because, school has bills. Yay. Yes, I went, and they definitely knew that, like, I was moving here for a little bit because Andres is stationed here. So all of them just assumed, like, oh, like, when are you guys planning on having kids? And like, oh, you're getting that dog. That dog is perfect for kids. And I was like, who said anything about kids? Like, I'm here to pay for school. I don't know who came up with that one, but
Oh no.
Your dog is basically your kids. That's good enough, honestly.
Do you plan on ever having kids or no? Sorry, I just had to ask.
I do want kids, but not right now. I feel like
That's like a future thing.
Yeah.
that's sometimes I think of my life at like certain video game levels.
Nice.
I haven't quite leveled up for that one. Like, that's a little more advanced. That's
Right.
advanced placement. That's like also advanced financial status that, like, I'm not there yet. Like,
True.
I'm still living my poor college student life. Like, I'd feed my baby ramen if that would come to it.
Nice. But yeah, I guess we did have one question, which you kind of already answered, but would you ever want like a more tradish wedding ceremony at some point?
I thought I wanted one because I was like, oh, on Pinterest it looks so nice. And like, I could have the photos for when I'm old and crinkly. But then, like, I don't know, when I think about how much money and how much worry, because I had a friend, my friend, I guess I won't tell, and I won't expose her name, but she recently got married, and she had the big wedding and everything, and I saw her not enjoy it.
Aw, boo.
Like, I think she was definitely excited to be married, but like, just the hassle of putting together that ceremony just looked so stressful, and like a lot of money and more for other people rather than you. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
So I thought I was missing out, and now I'm kind of like, nah. I'd rather go on a really nice vacation with him, enjoy that.
Nice.
For sure.
Legit.
I support.
Me too. For sure.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Trying to think of other questions.
I
Yeah.
can't really think of any, to be honest.
Marriage. Do you have any random insights on marriage? Would you, pros and cons, would you recommend it? Would you not?
Good one.
Pros. You get to pick out your roommate, your permanent roommate. He's a good roommate, so that's nice. That's a good pro.
Hell yeah.
I think it's really nice. I feel like when I dated people a while ago, I just like felt really insecure about a lot of things, especially like insecure about little parts of the relationship, even though it was like fun and great. I just didn't feel like it was quite settled.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't really worry about that at all. Like, I just know that like he's always there.
Nice.
I don't know, it's really nice, like, I don't know, coming home to your best friend is pretty rad.
That is pretty rad. I love it.
So
Oh, hell
cute.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I like having him like, I don't know, he's very supportive, and I have changed my mind about things a million times, and he's always listened to it, and he's no problem just talking and listening. He's a really good listener.
Hell yeah.
We love to hear it.
Yeah. Oh, it's also nice, like, having, like, someone do your laundry. That's nice, too. It's also pretty rad. or like pay most of the bills right now. But,
Nice.
Cons. I don't know why. This is like a little thing, but like just little things, like leaving like the used toilet paper, like rod, not the rod, the cardboard.
The roll
thing,
thing.
the roll.
Yes, the roll when it's done, and like just leaving it there. That's a con. What else? Like, just like little things like leaving out stinky clothes. Oh, I guess another thing would be because you live in a really small apartment together, and like when you're married and in a small space, especially I think during quarantine. I think it's hard to like. I think even in marriage, you do need a little bit of personal space, and so sometimes I think that we'll both get a little stressed out about something, and because we're so close and we love each other, we end up mirroring the same emotion off of each other. So like one person's stressed, so the other person gets really stressed. But that might just be a quarantine thing, and I mean, I think living with anyone and like not socializing with other people might do that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
that's so true.
I feel like it's a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I really like being married. There's good, especially like, at least, like with the government, they do a nice job taking care of me now that we're married. They didn't really care about me when we dated.
Solid.
I guess that's good. He's a good cook.
Oh hell yeah. That is
Nice.
good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm trying to think if I have like any ideas about marriage. I don't know. I think people put a lot of stress on it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of friends, especially like in Flagstaff, looked at me a little bit different. They're like, "Oh, she's married now. She's a different creature. How do we talk to it?" I don't know. I don't feel like things are very different.
That's true.
Yeah.
I can, what is it? Confirm? Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
s-
that's true.
yeah. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have about marriage.
Yeah, I don't have any others.
Thank you so much for letting us interview you. This was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Always
It's
a good
nice to
time
see your
talk to
face.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good talking to you guys. I miss both of y'all's faces.
I miss you too. I'm bummed I didn't get to see you when you were in town recently.
I'll come back.
But
Thank you for listening. This has been Queers Can't Words with Andy.
And Natalie.
Yay.
Yay.
Cool. Take care, everyone. And remember, you are loved and you are valid.
Yes, you are. We love you. Okay. Goodbye
Bye.
now. Bye.